Well, welcome back to Refrestos for yet another episode on the M113 powered Capri. So, in the last few episodes, we made quite a bit of progress. Had a lot of issues, a lot of things to overcome, but we've got there so far. So this episode is going to be two main things we need to really do. And that's make the car drive. We've already made the car run, but there is an issue. Ideally, I shouldn't have one of these out, but I do. And I've also got a leak down tester on its way coming to me probably in a few hours' time. So, we've got engine issues. Obviously, now it's running, we know that. Now these could be self-inflicted, could be due to my mistakes, because obviously I made a few mistakes. Or they could be due to the fact it's a 200,000 mile engine and it was kind of bought sight unseen with very little testing before I actually put it in the car. Very little testing. So, when it gets warm, it smokes a lot out of driver's bank, and I've got oil on two of the spark plugs, mainly cylinder 1. Joys! But, whilst I'm waiting on these parts, there's one thing I really need to do. If you guys watched the last video, you'll remember that I was a bit annoyed because I was putting all the engine back in, the gearbox back in again, and the bolts for the flywheel didn't work. So, as it turns out, the V6 flywheel bolts, fine on the V6 crank, which are the same length as the V8 bolts with the flex plate, but obviously not interchangeable. Because the flywheel's thicker than the flex plate, you need a longer bolt. So obviously the crankshaft on the M113 engine is different. I've got more of a thread to account for this. So I've had to order up some, well, a few less now. 30mm long high tensile cat bolts. They're M10, but they're a 1mm pitch thread. So they're an extra fine thread. So not the easiest to come by. It's a sort of special order kind of thing. So it's a bit annoying really. But I'm going to show up now. Going to get that gearbox back out again. Joys. Going to put the clutch and flywheel in it. Bolt it back up. And then what I'd love to do is bolt the prop on and take it for a drive. Problem is, it's now bank holiday Monday. On Friday, TNT were meant to deliver my prop by 6 o'clock. They didn't, so I've got no prop. So it's going to be next weekend now, because we've got to bolt it all in, make up the mounts for the centre bearings, check it actually fits and works. Almost a complete guesstimate so far. So I'm going to get the clutch knot in now, get it ready to go, and then we'll jump on to hopefully having the parts to start diagnosing the engine issues before then bolting the prop in and hopefully driving this thing in this episode. Let's crack on. So the gearbox is all out now, face of the crankshaft cleaned up there and the flex plate removed. I'm going to try to put this flywheel back on again without destroying my arms like last time. There's going to go that way. That's the flywheel in now. It turns out originally these had stretch bolts where their torque was 45 newton meters and additional 90 degrees stretch. So I don't have stretch bolts, so I whacked it in about 65 and we'll just go with that for now. Why not? Obviously because of the engine issues and the engine's coming out again soon anyway, so I'm not going to Loctite it, but when I put it in permanently I will Loctite the bolts as well to be safe. So that's all good now, so we need to clean the flywheel up. So overall, this flywheel is actually in really good condition. It's certainly not been slipped and heat damaged. Obviously, you must degrease it properly because if not, we'll get hot spots and that'll ruin the flywheel. Clutch disc still has meat on it, although obviously long term I'm going to need an uprated one. So I'm not sure the V6 one is going to quite handle the V8 power with a bit of thrashing, but it'll do for now, at least to test it. So I just made a bit of progress with it off camera. Exhauster back on, and then here's the line that comes out of the body. Still need to finish off and tidy all that up when it works. Clutch line comes out of the body, goes around, goes to a joint because I made it too short. Back around, and then that's the flexi line. Peak collector back up here, which goes into a gearbox. So I've popped off the bleeding nipple, and I guess next step is to try and drop some fluid down and bleed it maybe. This could be fun. So the little reservoir is full. Now I've already bled it. Well, I think I bled it with a bit of help from my granddad because it was a pig. So what I did is I used this syringe first to pump some new .4. Well, I tried sucking first, didn't really do much other than suck a load of goop out of it where it settled in the bottom of the slave, which is horrible. So sucked that goop out, then use this to sort of push back up and bleed because it wasn't happy bleeding from the top here. And I didn't want to pressurise from the top because obviously that copper pipe it goes in, it would hold a bit of pressure but not much because it's meant to be gravity fed. So I then pushed it back up until it started coming out this side for a couple of syringes worth into a bottle, and then done it the old fashioned way. So done it in the old fashioned normal way to bleed it back down to get the air out the slave. And nicely, the Merc one actually is quite a nice little setup with the bleeder. There he is. And he's just got a little bubble that sits on it, and then the plug goes over it. So we'll pop that one back in a minute, and then I think we got a clutch. So it's probably pretty hard to show you, but I can see down there my output shaft of gearbox, and when I put it in gear and I put some pressure on it with the pry bar, put the clutch in, and yep, it releases. One more job ticked off. So I'm not sure I'm going to do up here yet because I still need to sort of seal up the tunnel. So I'm going to have to take off this centre console at some point, add a bit extra into the top of my tunnel and modify this centre console bracket to allow for that as well. But up here we've obviously got a clutch now. We got a throttle, clutch, gear shifter. So nice. I'm really happy with them shifts. They're excellent. So, reverse. So that's going to be great. It's coming along. So, we've got a clutch. Yes! Just need a prop now and I better drive it. So, this means one thing now. Now we've got a clutch. We need to get on to the part of the not so good news and work out how damaged this engine is. So, what we got here is a compression tester. Now, a lot of you might be familiar with this. Basically, we put this in a spark plug hole, turn the engine over, with obviously the fuel in the spark turned off and the throttle wide open. And this here will give me a figure, and it will basically tell me how healthy the engine is, so how well the rings are sealing, how well the valves are sealing and all that. And if the head gasket's good. Obviously, if any one of them leaking, this will show this, because the compression will be down. You should have an even number per cylinder. Or what Mercedes specify actually is the minimum is 145 psi on this engine and no more than a 22 psi deviation between cylinders. So we need to check that, and then we've got this thing here which is called a leak down tester. So we put the air line into here, put a bit of pressure into the engine, and then this gauge here will tell us how much is leaking out. Okay, but this is quite different to that one. So that tells us how much compression, how much pressure the engine can produce. This tells us where's it going to. So obviously, when we do this, we need it so that the valves are shut. So we'll put the piston up to top dead center, and then we'll know. Then the valves will be shut at least, and we'll be testing it in its sort of compressed state. If that makes sense. And then from this, we should hear where the air goes. So whether it goes into the cooling system, back into the oil, into the exhaust, into the intake, or into the crankcase. That's the only places the air can go. And at the minute, I'm thinking, well, I'm not too sure to be honest, but it's probably going to be either intake, exhaust, or crankcase. Most likely crankcase. But before we do that, we'll probably inspect with bores, or as we don't inspect the bores and work out what the condition are. So that's the next big test now, to work out the health of the engine, mainly on the driver's side. I've got no real concerns on the passenger side at the moment. That seems to be alright, but we got a tiny misfire, and the cylinder 1 and cylinder 4 plugs are getting oil on there. So something's amiss here. I've got a concern, at least on part of the oil wise, is that when it was so retarded, it heated up the exhaust valve and maybe damaged the stem seals, and that's leaking down, and maybe that could explain why it only smokes when it's hot, because once the seals are loosened up, the oil's thinned out, it's then going by and it's going straight into exhaust maybe. I don't know. I'm sure we'll suss out though. I've hooked up my line to cylinder 4 there. I've had to take my air hose out the paint booth because it's got a Eurofit on it, but I don't think that's a Eurofit now, that's something different. But this one does almost seal against it, not quite. Other issue I got at the minute is the my compressor's actually turned down to increase the FM, so less pressure. So I can't actually hit the 400 psi in here. So we're gonna have to take the scale back a little bit. So we'll just see what happens really. So I'm going to plug it in, it's going to make a lot of noise. And ideally I'm going to be looking out in a second for some, trying to hear where the air goes, whether it goes to the crankcase, the exhaust, or the intake. So, I don't know what to expect, to be honest. Never done this before, not a clue. So I guess we'll just give it a go and just work it out from there really. So, that one there leaking from there, great. Leaking noises everywhere to confuse things. Oh, I forgot one major step, haven't I? That cylinder needs to be at TDC. Great. So I think that's somewhere near. What happens if we ping this in here? Oh. Oh no. So, I think that explains that there. Out the breather hose. Intake's fine. Wet exhaust. Well, it's not going to give us an accurate. Yeah, I think the exhaust is fine, to be honest. Can't hear much coming out of that, but there is a fair bit coming out the breather. And we are reading a 60% loss there, although that's not quite right because the pressure is not quite right. Oh well, let's try the next one. On a good cylinder, basically no loss. That's cylinder 2, the one with more compression. And now for cylinder 1. Although, I've got a feeling we are going to be out a minute on our time, on our, I think 180 degrees out, so the valves are probably open now. Let's just see. There you go, half our issue is this cheap fitting here leaking. Already what a load of crap. If that wasn't leaking, we'd be at about a 40%. So not too bad again. But not great. And where's it coming out of? Out the breather again. Joys! Right, well it's annoying that tester leaks, but it has given me an indication at least, and we can see air's going out into a crankcase, so that's not fantastic. That means piston rings probably. So, next step, we might as well put a camera in the bore, mightn't we? No harm in doing that. So, I'll see if I can see what the picture's like and see if I can put them up on screen in a second, but I definitely can't put a video because this one doesn't record. So, let's go into the hole. Okay. So, I've now done the autopsy, and this is what we're left with. So, cylinder 1, cylinder 4 plugs on the side, both have oil on them. Cylinder 1 appears to have more oil, but it could just be because it's cleaner. Cylinder 1, 100 psi, cylinder 2, 190, 3, 180, 4, 80 psi. Oh dear. Leak down test. Obviously couldn't be entirely accurate because that stupid new leak down tester leaks in the middle. So, that's great for a leak down tester to leak. But roughly, cylinder 1, that's probably around about a 40% leak down. Cylinder 2, about 5%, which is a good cylinder, so I guess that's fine. There's going to be some leak down, because the rings don't create a solid seal. Didn't bother to test cylinder 3, but again, it's going to be similar, sort of 5% probably, looking at what I did see of it. And cylinder 4, well, 50% leak down about. Not good. Both leak downs point to them coming out the crankcase, so they're going past the piston rings. Not ideal. So then, of course, I did the right thing and I put the camera down the holes, and this is what we've got. I'm not sure how well you guys can better see this, so I might actually now just ping it up on the screen. These pictures are terrible, little parkside camera. It's actually slightly better on the screen. When you take a picture it's worse, but let's go with cylinder 2 because that was a good cylinder. So cylinder 2, can you guys see this? Ish. There's bits of scoring. But very, very minor. Like, pretty much nothing. Gentle marks. Okay. Fine. If we go to, what, cylinder number 4 now? Which was one at... So you had low compression. I'll get these on screen for you. So, quite a lot of scoring. Not good. A lot of scoring. Cylinder 1, slightly better compression. Oh. Oh dear. That bore is a mess. So that's not good. Cylinder 1 bore is really... So what these are is, from what I can been told really, it's an aluminium bore, which is the block, and then it's just got a coating on it. So this coating is not looking good. So what I also did is I thought I'd quickly just have a look in the spare engine and see what the cylinder's like in there. And I only checked number 1, and number 1, compared to this engine, looks brand new. Like, no marks on it really at all. So, yeah. So, the autopsy is, that engine, she's no good. Now, I'm not sure if I've caused this in something I've done when I've been, maybe when I was trying to start it with the engine with a timing off, and I've bore washed it, but I can't see how I've only washed 2 bores. Bit odd. And they're not even like paired up bores, it's cylinder 1 in the firing order, and then it would be the 3rd cylinder to fire, which also is obviously paired with whatever the other 3rd cylinder would be on the firing order, paired with cylinder number 3. No, that's not correct. 3rd cylinder to fire, 7, sorry, paired with number 7. Haven't checked that side obviously, but I've got no concerns. There's no misfires, no oil coming out of the exhaust pipe. This side obviously had a little bit gentle misfire, only tiny, and oil coming out the tailpipe, or bit burning. So I can't see, if I've made a mistake, how I've done damage to both, just them 2 cylinders, but maybe someone can give me some advice on that. It could well just be the fact it's a 200,000 mile engine. Of course, when I bought it, as I think I might have previously already explained, it had no fuel in it. We managed to start it up, run it on the driveway for a minute, and then it ran out of fuel, so had to put a jerry can of fuel in it to get it onto the recovery truck. Brought it down here, done a couple quick burnouts. That was about it. So never really got up to temperature, and obviously because it had the full Mercedes exhaust system on for most of the time, you had I think it was like 3 boxes going through it. There was nothing you could see anyway. If there was smoke going through it, it would have been muffled. The misfire wouldn't have been obvious. Like I've got 2 split tailpipes, so 4 cylinders per tailpipe. Bit obvious. In that thing there, it's so quiet, I wouldn't have even really known anyway. Also, not had one before, I wouldn't know what it sounds like. So potentially that's just neglect or a bit of an odd wear there. Not good. But at least cylinder 1 of this engine looks mint. I don't know why this engine is for sale or why I bought it. Someone has started taking it apart. They've had the coil packs off, they've had the fuel rail out, and it's been apart a little bit. For some reason there's some exhaust gaskets in this bag that come with it, but I don't think it looks like the exhaust manifolds have been off, so I don't know. That's odd. But either way, I bought it, and actually this engine was worked out for about quarter of the price. Great. But I'll check the balls before I go too much further. I'll check all the cylinders on that at least for any marks. Turn it over, make sure there's no reasons for concern. But I think we're going to be using this engine, but not yet, because this engine's in here now, isn't it? This engine's already modified, set up for this car. So yeah, I think I'm going to risk it. I'm going to try it. It's in here now, isn't it? It's all set up for this car. It runs extremely smooth, bar that bit of smoke. If I can just try and dial down the smoke a bit when it gets hot, then if I can do it enough to get the car on the road, that'd be fantastic. If I can test it, ensure I'm happy before I start ploughing into building an engine. And that also gives me a chance then to tune this one and rag the crap out of it and not have to care about it. So I would much prefer to try and use this as my dummy engine, donkey engine now. And because I've got nothing to really lose. It's not going to send a rod through the bottom because that side of things seems perfect. It's literally just 2 bores, a bit low on compression, and burning a bit of oil. So I just run it for now, go for it, and then if anything bad happens, I'm going to have to change engines, but just use it as a test engine before I go and build a proper engine. That would be ideal. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to quickly put it back together, make it run again, and then next time you see me, I will hopefully have a smile on my face, and I'll have a prop shaft. Because what that will mean is, providing I haven't messed up designing and ordering a prop shaft, ouch, we should have a prop shaft to mount. It's going to be a bit difficult because it's a 2-piece shaft, and I've got a centre bearing to try and mount, which can, because it's on a rubber donut on the back of the gearbox, it can only be up to 1 degree out of plumb. Which is going to test my skills, just a little bit. But yeah, you'll see me in just a second with a shiny prop shaft that will hopefully fit. And then we'll be hitting another milestone and driving this thing on its new knackered engine. Fantastic. So yeah, if you've still enjoyed it after all that, then why not like the video, comment, tell me how much of an idiot I am, subscribe for plenty more of my fails, yay, and with any luck I'll see you guys again next time. Thank you for watching. I've been Jordan. Cheers.